You know when you're waiting for that one thing in the mail and it seems like it's taking forever to get here? Well, I finally got it and I'm super excited to try it out. Over the years, I've collected quite a few lenses, from zoom lenses to fisheye lenses, macro lenses, but I never really spent a lot of money on prime lenses because they're expensive. I did buy, back in the day, the 25mm Voigtlander lens, which is an incredible lens. It is designed for micro four thirds cameras, which means when placed on a micro four thirds camera, the 25mm will act more like a 50mm. So what that means is the 50mm ends up being pretty tight in situations where you're trying to capture a whole room or a wider interview, and that's where I really needed a wider prime lens. When you first pick it up, you'll notice it's a very heavy lens, and that's because, you know, it has the glass inside and the all metal build. Being able to go from f4 to 2.8 or to f2 or to 1.8 or 1.4, or even in this case 0.95, it makes a big difference. I've already went out and tested this, and it is such a great lens to work with. The focus ring on it is extremely smooth. It makes no noise. There's no clicking or anything. It's just buttery smooth. And one of my favorite features about it is that it has a hard stop, which means that's your minimum focus distance. And then all the way on the other side, it has a hard stop on that side as well. A lot of the cheaper lenses, they won't have that. You'll just be able to continuously rotate the focus ring. And what that means is you can't get used to that lens on where the focus marks are. But with this, after a few days of filming with it, you'll be absolutely comfortable turning the focus ring all the way to specific spots, and you'll know that that's, let's say, 2 feet or 6 feet or infinity. The aperture ring for controlling the exposure, each one clicks and it just feels really good to use. So why did I buy this? Well, I bought this because I already own the Voigtlander 50mm, which is, as I mentioned before, is the 25mm. This is a little tight, I find sometimes, so while it's great at low light, I still sometimes want to get a wider view. So that's why I bought this, and now I have the 2 prime lenses that are really high quality and they work really well together. I can film with the 50mm, get my shot, and then switch it to the wide angle. I can get a wider shot, and for editing purposes, that creates 2 shots. That gives me a lot more options in post-production. If you're working with a tighter lens on a stabilizer, then most likely you're going to be introducing a lot more shake into the footage. The wider you go, the less shake you're going to have. The other thing that is absolutely amazing with these series of lenses is the fact that you can focus to objects or subjects extremely close. So for example, with this Voigtlander 50mm, I can focus an object within, I believe it's an inch of the lens, the front of the lens. And while it doesn't have that one-to-one magnification that you would get from a macro lens, you are able to get really close and get some really great depth of field from this lens. The same goes with the new one I got, because with this, it naturally being a little wider, you're not going to be able to focus as close, but compared to other lenses, it's like 4 times as close. I spoke before a little bit about the weight, and yes, it is heavy, but in a way I kind of like that. Especially when you're doing, let's say, slow motion and you're just going handheld, you actually do want some extra weight. I've noticed a few people online talk about how this lens at 0.95 is a little soft, and I can confirm that that is the case, but if you're not shooting any commercials or anything, you know, for broadcast, let's say anything really professional, then you can get away with 0.95. And sometimes it's worth getting a little bit of softness in your image to get that little bit of extra light. Next week I'll be filming a Yamaha project, so I'm excited to use this lens. This would be the time when I would not want to shoot at 0.95, so for that one I'll most likely stick to 1.4 and keep the image nice and sharp. But I am looking to get that shallow depth of field from this, because typically with wide lenses, you're not going to really get a shallow depth of field, but because you can open up so bright with this lens, that allows you to get a much more shallow depth of field. Now keep in mind, because it's such a fast lens, you might want to get an ND filter for the front if you're shooting in bright daylight, for example. I would recommend maybe a 3-stop ND for that. So if you're shooting on a GH5, which is a micro four thirds camera, I would highly recommend getting this if you can afford it. This can take your productions to a next level because of the low light capabilities and the close focus distance, and especially in combination with a tighter version. So for me, I'm super happy that I have both of these now, and I look forward next week to use this on set. So thanks for checking this video out. Again, this is a Voigtlander 10.5mm f/0.95 lens. If you liked the video, give it a like and subscribe for more videos in the future. We'll see you next time.